Welcome to Building the Future. I'm your host, Kevin Horick. The radio and TV version of the show air in over 12 states. This includes both coasts and Silicon Valley. The show also airs in the UK, Caribbean, and Australia. For full show times, plus past episodes of the TV and radio show, please visit buildingthefutureshow.com. We just launched a free online community to connect past guests, listeners, and others. This community will allow you to network, chat on Slack, or get help with anything else, and a lot more. If you're interested in joining the community, buying some merch, sponsoring the show, or signing up for the newsletter, please go to buildingthefutureshow.com. The show is a proud media partner for the 11th Annual Media Excellence Awards, which are produced by Access Entertainment in Los Angeles, California. The Media Excellence Awards are recognized as the most influential awards show honoring innovation and leadership in all things mobile entertainment, lifestyle, and technology. For more information on how to submit to these awards, please visit mediaxawards.com. Welcome back to the show. Today we have Cameron Brown. He's an international speaker and storyteller. Cameron, welcome back to the show.
Great to be back, Kevin. Good here, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you back on the show. We were just chatting quickly before, and it's been kind of 10 months, and you've clearly had an incredible career, but you've, even in the 10 months that we haven't talked, you've done kind of an incredible amount of stuff. But maybe before we get into all that fun stuff, let's get to know you a little bit better and start off with your background and kind of where you grew up.
Yeah, definitely. So I, as you can tell from the accent,
Sure.
most people can tell from the accent now. I get crossed with different people, with different countries now. But
Sure.
From Australia originally. I grew up in outback Australia. My family still lives there, so I love getting back and just being there and being a cool uncle and getting some quality family time in when I go back. Yes, spent a lot of years there, and 18 months ago sold everything that I owned. Embarked on a global quest to. There was a few different reasons behind it. One, to show that you don't need things to be happy. Another, to show that you can build relationships with anybody in the world. Doesn't matter where you are, as long as you've got an internet connection, you can
Sure.
Build wherever you are. And also there was this. I had noticed this power in curiosity that I had been starting to explore for a while, and I really wanted to test that out and see whether there was real power in what I was talking about. And like in the last 18 months has been definitely testament to that piece. But yeah, that's kind of where things have happened over the last 18 months and where I grew up.
Sure. So for people that don't know, I want to spend a little bit more time about, you mentioned you sold kind of most things that you own, and you've basically been traveling the globe, doing a bunch of stuff. Do you want to kind of walk us through that journey and kind of what you've been up to right before the thing that you released yesterday? We'll get into that.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I spent time in 10 countries across 4 continents.
Wow.
And it was crazy experiences to go with that. That's for sure. Did a lot of time within Latin America and finished up in Europe as well. So there was time living in Costa Rica and Colombia, Argentina, and some other beautiful countries. As I was traveling, I continued coaching people. So I've been running a coaching and training company for the last 8 years now. And while I was traveling, I didn't do as many speaking engagements as I normally would. I still did speaking engagements in the 4 continents, but coaching was a major part of being able to do that ongoing. So doing those with high performers internationally through virtual breakthrough days and ongoing coaching. Okay. So that was fantastic to be able to continue doing. The beauty of technology, to be able to continue running a company and continue helping people and helping them to step up to that next level of excellence. And then while I was traveling, I was helping with different projects and helping to tell stories through videos. So different philanthropic projects to really help them amplify their message, and that was really a way of giving back, and again, to show the power that technology has to speed up and magnify our creativity, innovation, and impact in the world. So there was Sea Turtle Project, there was many reforestation projects and sustainability projects in different parts of the rainforest. So that was really amazing. And as I've gone, then it's then led to there was a video that I released of Colombia last year in around August or September 2017, and that ended up going viral. It's now at about 830,000 organic views.
Wow, that's huge, man. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's just on one of the social platforms, and then others have received a decent amount of views as well. So that's served me very well. That one we captured drone footage of rainforests and waterfalls and beaches, and then all of the nature sounds I captured while traveling as well. And then when I was in Argentina writing some new music, I had a grand piano in my apartment that I was leasing there, and while I wrote some new actual songs like with lyrics to them as well, I also wrote the music for that short film. So that was really, really cool to be able to sit down at a piano and feel what inspires me most about the previous few months living in Colombia. And it was pretty cool to have that many people watching it and being inspired by that and wanting to help protect. So that's some of the stuff that's been going on, man.
That's great, man. Yeah, I love that. I think it's very cool that you're basically traveling around. I think a lot of people, well, most people wouldn't have kind of be able to do that, right? Like just kind of pick up and leave and travel the world and do all these projects while still running a company is inspiring to people. And you're right. Like, I was just thinking about this as you were talking, like, I think this is the third time you've been on the show. For some context, I think you've been in 3 different countries each time we recorded.
That's quite possible, man.
As I think the last time you recorded, we were in Argentina, and I think before that, you were somewhere in Europe, maybe, or you were back in Australia. I can't remember, but you were definitely
somewhere else.
Yeah, which is very, very cool, right? So,
yeah, I think understanding what it is that you're wanting to experience and knowing the outcomes that you're shooting for, and then having clarity about how you're going to execute on that. Because for some people, it might not be traveling the world. It might be running a company in a specific area. There might be a physical location that you have. It could be about being in a relationship. It could be about getting fit and healthy. Whatever the things are that you are wanting to experience in this lifetime, it's about being really clear on that, being curious then about how you might actually get there and not needing to know all of the answers. And because that allows you to play in the unknown, and it's a really important thing that I've learned especially over the past 18 months. But then executing well, because once you know what it is you're wanting to experience and you've got an understanding as to how you can get there, it's about going forward with confidence and clarity and the courage to actually execute on what it is that you say you're going to do, versus just it being another idea that you thought might work but didn't end up getting around to it. So I think that together, and that's what it was for the last 18 months. It was traveling the world, and that was the only thing that I was wanting to do at that time. Was being able to showcase through the Impact Diaries, which was the project, showcase those things that I mentioned before, and being able to do that in a really effective way. And now it's a different focus. I'll still be traveling a lot, but it won't be as much as what it was, because there's more multi-sensory speaking engagements that I'm doing in North America now. So as you evolve, the way I see it, as you learn, as you grow, as you evolve into new versions of yourself, it's about understanding, well, where is that next phase of growth? Where is that next level of evolution going to come from? And how can I position myself in the best way to ensure that I can capitalize on that and allow myself to make a great impact? So that's it's definitely an element of thinking that has to be required there to ensure that you are able to achieve exactly what you're wanting to achieve.
Sure. So before we kind of get into a couple of things, I want to dive a little bit deeper into that. So how do you work with individuals? Like, what types of stuff do you kind of walk them through? Because obviously they need to be at least open to the idea of kind of changing their mindset a bit and kind of adopting some new ideas. Is that fair to say?
Oh, 100%. I mean, usually those that I'm working with are high achievers. They've already achieved a great level of success.
Okay.
They're wanting to get to that next phase of excellence. So they're either in a decent leadership position, wanting to get there, either running a company and running it successfully. But what happens is, especially those tuning in, the high achievers, this happens ongoing, is that we consistently exceed the level we believe we're unconsciously worthy of.
Sure.
And that's really important to understand, that as we learn and grow and evolve, we reach that capacity that we have, and a new level of thinking is required in order to move to that next phase of excellence. So I love doing it with good people that are wanting to do greater things. So yeah, openness to change is absolutely a prerequisite. I mean, that's openness to change is how you grow.
Sure.
At the end of the day, let alone whether you're working with somebody or not. All growth occurs outside of your comfort zone, because everything inside of your comfort zone is everything you already know. And yet a lot of people spend way too much time inside their comfort zone, which means that the growth doesn't happen as rapidly as what it could. I remember, though, one of my mentors said, like, this is years ago now, but it really stuck with me. It was that the quality of your life will be in direct correlation with the amount of uncertainty you can handle.
Interesting.
And I love that. I love it, because the reason I love it so much is because it basically states and shows that the amount of uncertainty the uncertainty is outside your comfort zone. It's everything that is unknown so far. And the more that you can be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and that does take some practice, it does take some time and effort, but it's about finding certainty in the things that you can be certain about, so that then you can spend more time in the things that are outside of your comfort zone. One of those is backing yourself and having certainty that you're able to work things out regardless of what you're being exposed to. That's a really big one. But yeah, openness to change is incredibly important, and then willingness to go forward as well. Willingness to know that you don't have all the answers, because none of us have all the answers.
No.
Because another thing that one of the mentors said to me once is the moment you think you've arrived is the moment you're in for a very big fall.
Sure, yeah. That's actually really good advice.
It's so good. It's so good, because it's just such a humbling experience. Of any time that you know that you think to yourself, oh yeah, I've made it, I really got it, and I've done this. So there's something coming, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally.
That humbleness is beautiful as well, because it allows you, no matter what success you might have as an individual or at a company level, then like you said, you still stay humble, and I think that's a really attractive quality for people.
Sure. Do you find, though, that sometimes you're working with somebody that's already been successful, they're maybe not willing to change just because of the simple fact that how they've been doing things has made them successful so far?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. So often, I mean, when somebody is already successful and there is that constant and never-ending growth trajectory that they're going on,
Sure.
what I find is usually they are open to going forward, and open to changing, and open to breaking through to that next level of thinking. But yeah, there are some people who feel this is the way that I've done it all the time, and this is the way that I'll continue doing it. And if it's still getting you the same result, I mean, this is what I'll usually say to them. If it's getting you the same result and you're still killing it and you're smashing it, and it's allowing you to thrive at that next level of excellence, rock on, go for it.
Sure.
But if you're finding that it's actually holding you back from succeeding at that next phase of growth, then that's a problem. And it doesn't matter what you've done up until now. It's time to relearn. It's time to uncover how you could get to that next phase. And that's usually enough for, like I said, if somebody's a high achiever and they go, well, I want to get there and I'm not there yet, and for some reason there's something that's getting in the way, something that's worked up until now hasn't worked now to get me to the next phase, well, maybe it's time to do something different.
Sure. So how do you work with them to kind of figure out what they need to do and or change to get to the next thing that they're chasing after, or that next kind of goal or milestone?
Yeah, it really depends on which area that I'm helping them work on.
Sure.
Often it's that next level of thinking. So usually there's some form of emotional intelligence component to it, of how am I thinking right now? How is that holding me back? And how do I need to think instead in order to get to where I want to go? So when I do a breakthrough day with a client, for example, what happens is when it comes to our makeup, you've got your values will shape your beliefs, beliefs shape thoughts, thoughts shape actions, actions shape results. Okay, so that's kind of the journey that we go on. What happens is if we only try to change the action, this is why a lot of people fail at New Year's resolutions, right? Is because they go, I'm going to go to the gym this year, and then 6 days into it, they're back same stuff that they were always doing, right?
Yep.
It's because they changed the action. They didn't change any of the values. They didn't change any of the beliefs. They didn't change any of the thoughts. And therefore, as soon as something changed, some external environment changed and it meant that they couldn't go one day, then they haven't developed the thinking required to be able to be flexible in their approach. So that's a big one. Within the breakthrough day, I'll uncover and help them uncover with through the power of questioning mostly, and the years of experience now of being able to work out, right, what is the limiting pattern playing out here, because they are patterns at the end of the day. Patterns get you the results you want. Patterns get you the results you don't want. It's just understanding what patterns are playing out right now, and are they supportive of my success, and are they going to allow me to get to where I'm actually wanting to go next as well. So I'll work with them on that. It's really, really cool work, especially the values work, because once somebody's completely aligned, and I think this is actually a really good piece to cover here, is somebody can have really great values. When you look at personal values, they can have really great values. Let's say somebody has a top value of love, and you go, on the surface level, that's a really great value to have. But if you start uncovering underneath the surface and realize that the reason that they have that value of love is because, I didn't feel loved as a child, then the focus is on not being loved as a child, and they're wondering why they continue attracting either business or personal relationships that take advantage of them, or mean that they don't feel like they fit in or belong, or are respected in a work environment, or loved in a personal environment. So once we get really aligned there, it's like a powerful energy, because just imagine for a moment, like you've got your left hand and your right hand, right?
Sure.
And if you've got this internal conflict going on, which happens with so many people. If you've got this internal conflict going on underneath the surface, unconsciously, you don't really know why it's happening, but you know that for some reason you're sabotaging your efforts. Mm-hmm. For some reason you go for a while and then you pull back. For some reason you go for a while and then you procrastinate. For some reason there are patterns that are going on here where you go, I know I need to be doing something different, but I don't know why I keep sabotaging my efforts. Mm-hmm. And this is what's going on, is that for a period of time you're thinking that you can do it, but then there's the pullback on the other hand that's actually going in conflict with what you're trying to think in terms of being different. But your value underneath, or your belief underneath, is actually pulling back because you've got something else that you're believing underneath the surface. All of a sudden there's this conflict going on, and the amount of energy that goes into fighting that battle, now whether that ends up being and forming into depression or anxiety or grief or any of those things that happen, or if it's a lesser amount of that, you don't have to be depressed to still have this internal conflict going on that can be detrimental to your productivity and your performance in the workplace and in your personal life as well. If this is going on, but if you can then shift that and all of a sudden have all of your values, beliefs, thoughts, actions, and obviously the results that come after that, if you have all of that lined up and all of your energy is going in the same direction, so you imagine like your hands coming together now and pointing in one direction rather than fighting against each other, all of a sudden you've got a massive advantage over a lot of other people out there. But more importantly, it allows you to be fulfilled in the moment, and also you are your own best friend, and you're supporting yourself when you're down, and you're celebrating your successes when you're up. Versus what happens in a lot of cases is that we kick ourselves when we're down, and when we're up, we say it's not going to last.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So that's something that's really important to understand there.
Sure. So maybe let's dive into, you have a really interesting creative project that you just launched. Let's talk about how you came up with the idea. What exactly is it, and why did you decide to actually execute it? Because that's got to be a monumental task.
Dude, I don't think I really realized how monumental it was when I kicked off, man. Oh my gosh, totally worth it. But oh my gosh, it's earlier. So I love living at this intersection of creativity and technology,
sure.
and working out how can I demonstrate how to thrive in a digital age. Rather than just talking about it, I like actually showing how it's done as well.
Sure.
It's the reason for that 18-month project. It's the reason for this one that's just released as well. I was earlier this year, I was invited to deliver the closing talk at Italy's largest TEDx event.
Congrats, man. That's huge, actually.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's yeah, it was a beautiful and amazing honor. And so the talk that I delivered was on the surprising power of curiosity.
Okay.
And how, when blended with technology, can speed up and magnify our creativity, our innovation, and our impact in the world. Now, I already had some great examples from the previous 18 months of how that was true, and how amazingly remarkable it can be for nurturing a culture of curiosity, but then having the technology there to be able to bring that together and speed up and magnify that growth. But I wanted to do another experiment to really show that it doesn't take that long at all. Yes, it takes work, but you can do things faster than you've ever been able to before. So to show that, I wanted to have to deliver a multi-sensory experience on stage. I'd already wanted to have a grand piano on stage, but I thought, well, I wonder if we could get some other people involved around this, to really demonstrate this idea, this concept that I was talking about. And what resulted is that I ended up working with more than 80 people from 40 countries around the world. We created a music video that's played on the big screen while I played the music live on stage on a grand piano. And all the people recorded in their countries in front of mountains and rivers and castles and ruins and all these other crazy locations in countries all over the world. And what was beautiful about this is every relationship was built through digital technology. I've never met any of them in person. Before the project, we never knew each other even existed, and it was done deliberately like that. It was done to showcase, not only is it an inspiring video, but the whole story behind it and how it came to be and why it came to be was, again, the showcase that this power of curiosity. See, I gave myself the space to dream, to think about how I could actually demonstrate this in a really, really powerful and unique and creative way. And how could I then use technology to speed up that process? Then I used technology and executed on that. And all of a sudden, 4 months later, we had this remarkable video that was used in the talk. And yeah, yesterday released as a standalone video to inspire people around the world. And there's been interviews on TV and radio already, and for print, which is amazing. Yeah, it's an amazing journey. And to go with that, we actually transported a grand piano for my part in the video. Transported a grand piano to a place called Garden of the Gods in Colorado, which is this massive red rock formation with mountains off in the distance. We transported that before sunrise and filmed with a commercial drone and other state-of-the-art equipment close up, and pulled that all together into a beautiful video.
Very cool, man. So I want to dive a little bit deeper into making this thing. So
yeah,
how did you come up with the original idea, though?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, this is where the power of curiosity comes in.
Sure.
I'm a big believer, and I've really, again, this was to demonstrate this, in for something to be created, there needs to be space for it to be created into. Okay. And this is a really, really powerful insight to have. And for those tuning in, if you really, really get this, it can be a magical tool for you to utilize within your own lives and within your own companies. And I've learned this from writing music for the last 17 years or so now, that when I try to write a song, I'm really bad at it.
Interesting,
but
yeah.
when I give myself the space and allow that music to be written through me, somehow magic happens.
Sure.
And so creating that space, I gave myself the space to dream and to create and to wonder about what could be possible, asking myself empowering questions at the same time, knowing what I was wanting to experience on stage with the multisensory talk in Rome, in Italy. So being able to ask quality questions that were aligned to that allowed me to guide my curiosity. And I think this is really important because it's the difference between a childlike curiosity. And it's important to have that childlike nature to this curiosity that you nurture. But what we've got available to us as adults is the ability to guide our curiosity toward the outcomes we're actually wanting to experience.
Sure.
The beautiful thing is that we're able to guide that, but not need to know the answers. So I had no idea that I would be working with people from 40 countries around the world. I didn't know at the start that we'd have people recording in all these crazy locations. I had no idea that I would be out in Garden of the Gods on a grand piano. It's only looking back on it that you go, that all lined up beautifully.
Sure.
It's like, it would have been nice to know that back then, but that's the beauty of life, right? And this is what I love about curiosity. It's about going, well, I wonder. Those two words, if you can install them into your vocabulary very, very regularly, that's an extremely powerful two words, yet seemingly innocent words.
Totally.
But through all of that, it was, I wonder if I could have a grand piano on stage and deliver a TEDx talk like on a large stage. To, I wonder if I could have some people involved from around the world. This is how it happened. I wonder if I could have people involved from actually like all over the world. And I wonder if I could have them involved where they could record in places that are really inspiring. And that all happened. And then I wonder if I could have a grand piano out in the wild somewhere, because I thought about having that in the future. I thought, I wonder if I could have that for this video. And then 24 hours later, I had a piano mover company sorted, a piano sorted, a drone videographer sorted as well. All we needed to do was find the venue, the location that we would record at, and it was just 24 hours. And I just looked at it again. Wow, this concept, this idea, this way of thinking is so powerful when you give yourself the space to create. When you guide then your curiosity. And then once you've got that in place, you execute on that, and you execute on it so quickly because you've known what it is that you're wanting to experience. You've given yourself the space to dream, which has allowed you to come up with solutions that you wouldn't have otherwise had the ability to do because you're focusing on everything that you already know. And then all of a sudden you've got this beautiful array of things that you could implement. And then you work out, right, which is the best way forward based on what I'm wanting to experience, based on what I've come up with here, that would allow me the best chance of success with what I'm wanting to do. And that's what we did.
Interesting. So I think you know where I'm going to go with this, but
I have no idea where you're going to go. I'm just going wherever we're going, man.
No. Like with where I'm going now, like how did you find 80 musicians that were strangers in all these countries?
Yeah, it's a good question. So there's a number of ways. Social media was one. So I put this cryptic post out on social media that was because it was all done in secret. No one knew outside of the project itself. No one knew exactly what was going on. And so I put out a post onto social media, which was simply wanted musicians to be a part of a project to help change the world.
Interesting.
And that was it. Comment below. And people there was some people that got tagged in. There was a viola player in Sweden, for example. There was a bass player in Australia. There was a number of other people, one in Scotland, another person from another country as well. So that was one way. Instagram was a way that somebody else reached out from the Maldives, which was amazing. They found out about the project somehow and wanted to be involved, which was incredible. We had that meeting on the phone while I was in Mexico at this villa on the beachfront. And just out of the blue, heard from him. He's an amazing guy. We've become good friends. He's just a great human being. Then across to there was remote work sites was another big one. So reaching out and putting a job description that allowed people to know that they were going to be a part of something meaningful and part of something greater than themselves, and that was really a prerequisite that people needed to want to be a part of something like that versus just wanting it to be a part of it for their own self-interest. So that was another way, and then I really wanted some people from different countries that I hadn't been able to get yet as well. So I reached out to a couple of contacts that I had and just said, look, do you know anybody who you could introduce me to? And that happened in the Middle East. I had a contact that I had who had there was no connection to music whatsoever, and just reached out and said, hey, do you know anybody in the Middle East that might be interested in doing something like this? And she didn't know anybody, but she knew somebody who might know somebody, and she they ended up introducing me, and we had a couple of amazing people from Jordan participate, which was just phenomenal, and really made it even more magical. So there were like there were a lot of different ways, and then it came down to we had a lot more men to begin with who had and there was no thought behind that about making that happen. It just happened like that. A lot more men reached out, and so I deliberately there was a lot more work involved in having more women involved in that. But I really wanted to make sure that we had a lot of women involved. And as you can see from the video, there is a lot of women involved, and it was amazing to get that. But I put a specific job, ad up, for example, on the remote work sites, specifically for females. Put another post out on social media specifically for females, for women who were wanting to be a part of something great. And I think there's something to be said for that, when it comes to diversity, when it comes to gender equality, when it comes to the challenges that we're facing around these kinds of areas right now, you got to realize that it is going to take more effort, and you got to be okay with putting in that extra effort, because for something to change, there is going to take more effort than what is current right now. Sure. It would have been very easy for me just to go forward and have a lot more men in the project, and it still would have been okay, right? But I really wanted to demonstrate the ability for us to create that equality, for us to create that diversity, to be able to inspire people to go, you know what, we're going to follow suit here in our own way, to ensure that we're doing what we can to address these issues.
No, I think it's great. And the key there that I think that I really wanted you to focus on, and I knew you would say, is you basically reached out or posted stuff on kind of social media. So your geographic location and their geographic location really didn't matter because you used the internet. Sure, you wanted people in all these countries, but through technology, you basically were allowed to work with, 80 people in 40 countries, right?
Yeah, this was one of the big reasons for doing this, is to show, because technology and specifically social media is copping a pretty bad rap right now. Mm-hmm. Depression, anxiety, suicide, narcissism, lower levels of empathy. That's not just in younger people. That's definitely happening there. It's also in adults and middle age and elderly as well. So that's a really worrying statistic. But here's the thing. The last 18 months for me has been the exact opposite experience.
Interesting.
It's allowed me to connect with people. Take away the project, we'll get to that in a moment. It allowed me to connect with people that I would never have had the opportunity to connect with otherwise. Sure. It's allowed more than 1 million, just over the last in 2017, there were more than 1 million organic video views. Wow. Of the videos from this journey, which inspired so many people around the world. That would have never happened. I would never have released any of the music. I would never have been invited to speak at the closing talk at TEDx, because that happened through social media. I would have never have spoken, and there was a 700-person event in Canada where I was on this beautiful grand piano and showcasing footage of mine from around the world. That happened through social media. All of these things had happened through social media and through the very thing that is disconnecting a lot of people. And so the realization that I've had is that technology isn't the actual problem here. It's pointing to it. It's magnifying it.
Interesting.
That if unconsciously we believe we're not enough, if we don't believe we belong, if we believe that we are rejected, that we're not worthy of love or respect, then technology will speed up and magnify that.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, and that realization I really wanted to drive home in the talk and through the project in terms of the people from 40 countries, is that it comes down to how we're utilizing it. Sure. And if we're conscious about it, and if we're purposeful with it, it can allow us to create things in the world and create solutions to our world's greatest challenges faster than we have ever been able to before. If you think about how long that would have taken me to do, it took me 4 months, right? Mm-hmm. That would have taken years to do, let alone the thousands of hours of travel and emissions and money and all of that would have taken to complete something like that. Like, it's monumental. Maybe it would have taken more than years. Maybe it's decades. I really don't know. Sure. I think about it though and just go, that would have been near on impossible to do. And yet we're able to do it in just 4 months. And I've got people out of that are just great friends now, that are just magical people, that I feel very, very blessed to be a part of their world, and are feeling mutual as well. So, yeah, I really wanted to drive that home, that technology, and specifically the very things that are getting blamed right now for how we're seeing our world, we've got to go much deeper. We've got to get to the core of what's really playing out, because if we don't, technology is just going to continue speeding up.
Yeah.
If we don't get to the core of the issue, it's going to continue speeding up the rate at which we feel lonely, in which we feel disconnected, in which we feel isolated, depressed, anxious. And the beautiful thing is the exact opposite is true as well. That if we learn how to harness the power of these technologies, it can allow us to feel even more connected, even more at peace, even more loved, even more respected. And I think that is just a beautiful place to be, but we've got to get our act together, both in companies and teaching this stuff around emotional intelligence in the digital world. I liken it to what I call hybrid, which is how to be a high-performing human in a digital world. We've got these beautiful skill sets that we've got as human beings, our human traits of courage and curiosity and creativity and understanding our emotions, and then being able to couple that with technology is something that we can develop going forward as a skill set that allows us to adapt to change very rapidly and solve, as I mentioned before, solve a lot of the challenges we're being exposed to.
No, man, I love it. So I'm curious, though, obviously they were strangers, but did you talk to each one of them on Skype or on the phone?
Yeah, so I mean, while they were strangers to begin with, yeah, a lot of them have become very good friends of mine. Some, and this is another beauty of technology, is that a number of the people in there can't speak English.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so we communicated through text throughout the entire project because that was the way that we could both communicate because we could use then a Google Translate, for example, or other translation tool to be able to know and understand what we were both saying. I had a guy, Tongo, great guy, amazing human being, and he's from Mexico and he makes his homemade flutes, and so he played the flute in that and recorded. And yeah, we had all communication was done through Facebook Messenger.
Very cool. So I'm curious then, how did you wrote the song, but did you send them the music and kind of the time signature? Like, how did that kind of work out? Because I've played in less like crappy bands growing up. And getting, 3 or 4 people in one room to kind of sync up and play can be quite the challenge, So when you first told me about this project and you said you had 80 strangers playing from all parts of the world, I'm just thinking, like, from an editing this all together, that must have been an incredible nightmare. Like, how did you sort that out?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy experience, and we had. So there were a few different parts to this. First up, I recorded the piano and the vocals in Mexico in my apartment. So the actual vocals and the piano that you hear on the video and in the music, I actually recorded in that apartment, which is pretty cool in itself. Sure. And then so we knew what the tempo was. And then I needed to while I was finding different people, they would send back a demo of what they could do for me to be able to select different people. And then I did a shout out and a look for and a search for somebody that would be the mixing engineer. So we found an amazing human being in Christo over in Bosnia. We worked a lot together. Christo and Igor are the 2 guys that I've spent more time over the past 4 months than anybody else by far. The sleepless nights and going through till the very next day a lot of the time. But so as time went on, we had a cloud system set up for the filing and a really clear and concise filing system, and I'm very appreciative that I set that up right from the get-go because that would have been an absolute nightmare if that wasn't in place in terms of the videos and the audio. And then so we worked on the arrangement. So Chris and I worked on the arrangement as to what it would be: the drums, the bass, the guitars, the flutes, the violins, the other cool instruments that we wanted to have in there. And then we had that as a bass track. So everybody then we split out all of the different tracks. So we had a solo violin track, a viola track, flute track, a drums track, an African drums track, all of the different instruments were all split out into individual instruments, so that people could then download the full song, so they knew how it needed to sound,
right,
as well as the solo track, so that they could actually do that. For some people, we did sheet music as well. It wasn't the best because it was translation from MIDI, but we did the best that we could, and that was enough for some of the people, especially more of those who have learned traditionally through music, especially the strings players.
Sure.
Having the sheet music was at least a help. And then from there it was we worked on the arrangement, which was a crazy project, and then the video editing as well, which was animating. It was an animated split screen video that we had, which leading up to the TEDx talk, we finished. So we went through the night before sound check until 6 a.m. in the morning.
Wow!
And that was when I sent across the video to the sound guy and said, "Hey, we're done." I then went to sleep for 2 hours, then went out and spent some time with my sister and her fiance in Rome to see a couple of sites. Came back, went to sound check and checked to make sure the video was working okay. And the very next day, went and did the talk.
That's great, man. That's amazing, right? Like, just that you pulled that off. Did you pay the people to be in the show or into the song, or how did that work?
Yeah, so there was a couple of options. So there was payments, as well as there was the ability to volunteer and donate what they were paid towards the reforestation project that we did for the project. So we actually collectively donated 1,000 trees for this project as well.
Wow, that's really great.
It was thank you. It was to really, again, it was to show that you can create masterful outcomes and remarkable outcomes while doing good for the planet at the same time. It doesn't have to be after you've done it; should be done during.
Sure.
And I think that's a really important thing for companies to understand. That really has to happen going forward, because we need to be better stewards of our planet. And so there was 1,000 trees that were planted, which was amazing. So some people were wanted to put it towards the trees. Others were in a situation where they wanted to be paid, and that was absolutely fine. It just depended on their situation as to where they were at. But I think the really important thing, which was important right from the start, is that even if they were getting paid, then it was important that the first thing was that they wanted to be a part of something greater than themselves, part of something meaningful. We had some people that didn't make the cut because that was just, I could just tell they were just purely in it for themselves, and it just wasn't a culture fit. It wasn't a values alignment, and so that was really important first and foremost, because it was because there were that many people involved, they might not have been paid as much as they normally would have for in terms of session musician.
Sure.
I wanted to make sure that we at least paid something, to say thank you and to respect them and show them that we valued their time, and made sure that was the case.
Very cool, man. So you've done this for a couple of years, kind of traveling, but you've been doing this a lot longer. And you've been coaching people for a long time now. What advice, or what do you kind of commonly see in these people that are, high achievers, or people that you've worked with, that you maybe want to demystify, or give kind of advice around people that are maybe up and coming, or they're scared to actually kind of take the leap to actually do some of the stuff that they want to do in life?
Yeah, there is. I'm more than happy to share. There's a number of things to mention here. One is they seek out advice, and they know that they don't know everything.
Sure.
And so it's about having smarter people around them to ensure that they're able to find ways of doing things smarter and faster. They value their time a lot, and so that then comes back to, again, what I find is that especially when I'm working with somebody, they value the time more than money. Often it's because money can be done, and from a time point of view, is that if I can leverage my time to get a result even faster, that means I'm going to make more money in the long run. And so they look at investment over how much is it going to cost me. They look at the return on investment instead. That's a really important one. That's something that I learned as well for me personally years ago, because I used to be very much about cost. How much is this going to cost me? So hang on a second. What's the return going to be for me from this? What can I expect to in terms of return? Now, that could be a return on investment from a money point of view, but it could also be a return on investment of time, of energy, of experiences. Know and understand what it is that you're wanting to achieve and experience, and work out the smartest ways to get there. And often you'll find that's working either with somebody or somehow being able to leverage the things around you as well as your own expertise to get a result much faster than you would have been able to alone or otherwise. So that's a really important thing to understand.
Sure.
The other is, there's a high level of courage. There's the ability to get out of their own way. The ability to step forward with confidence and backing themselves. That if they go forward, then and that comes down to risk as well. Is while it's taking educated risks. It's not just about being very flippant about it, because that can get you in a lot of trouble. And those who are very, like I said, very successful in their field, I find have taken educated risks. Some people would look at maybe the makeup of my own self and go, man, that was really risky. And to me, it wasn't. It was, I'm backing myself into this, and I know it's going to work out. I don't know exactly how it's going to work out yet. I don't know all the answers, but I know it's going to work out some way, shape, or form, and I'm going to be okay. And so that's that. I think the other big part is.
Sorry, before you go, but just elaborate on that for a second, because
Sure.
my question to you is going to be what's the worst that's going to happen to you if it doesn't work itself out?
Yeah,
you potentially have to go back home to your family farm in Australia for weeks or maybe a few months to maybe get some more money to pick up and go again. Is that a fair statement to say?
Yeah. So, and this is I'm glad you mentioned it, because it's exactly what I was about to mention next.
Okay, sorry, I got you off.
No, this is perfect, man. We're vibing, man. We're on the same wavelength, right? And this goes for everybody. So for me personally as well, it's about you making peace with the worst case scenario.
Okay.
If you can make peace with the worst case scenario, you can go forward with confidence and courage. Fear dissipates, because it doesn't matter if the worst case scenario comes true. You've already taken care of it in your own mind. Sure. And so for me, it was a number of years ago, I did this exercise, and it was similar to what you mentioned there. It was, and I was in a relationship at the time. It would be, relationship would end, my business would go under, the company would go under, I'd let people down, I'd have to move back, and it would be move back to the place I grew up, and have to go and get a job, and all of these things that I had painted in my mind were just monumental failures. But when I really uncovered it, I then thought, all right, well, so I'd be back there. That'd mean that it'd mean I'd spend some more time with my family. I could go out and capture some videos out in wherever I am. That would be okay. Oh, and there's a piano there, so I could at least write some new music. And I started to realize, it's not actually that bad.
No, you're like, maybe I want to do that for a while.
I'd actually be okay if that happened, right? It's and all of a sudden, the worst case scenario that I had made in my mind was BS. It was made up. And that's what happens a lot of the time, is that in our lives, in our companies, we make up stuff that isn't even real. We make up stories in our mind for things that haven't even happened yet. And that's a lot of wasted energy for things that haven't even happened yet. If you're going to make up stuff, you might as well be making up stuff that's supportive of your success, right?
Sure.
Really, really important to understand. And so once you've made peace with that worst case scenario, you're able to go forth and make, like I said, educated decisions, strategic decisions about how you can move forward with that confidence, because the fear isn't out of proportion with what you're actually being exposed to.
I think that's really good advice, man. I agree. I 100% agree. I think that's probably the single most probably complex thing for most people, I think, to get over, right?
Hold so many people back, man.
It's like,
Hold so many people back. And it comes back to this comes back to our survival mechanisms. This is what we're fighting against in terms of our makeup. Here's the thing, and I think this is going to be really, really important. Those tuning in, really listen to this. Our external worlds are evolving faster than we are.
interesting.
Now, let me unpack that for a moment. Technology is rapidly evolving. Our world is rapidly evolving. We as human beings, our physical makeup, our internal makeup, hasn't evolved that much over the last 10,000 years.
Yep.
We've still got the basic survival mechanism of, if it's unsafe, get out of there, because that saber-toothed tiger is going to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, but the thing is, it's not like so much a physical chance of death, especially in more the developed world, but a psychological death, the psychological survival. And so it becomes, it's not safe to go out there. It's not safe to go outside of that cave because that saber-toothed tiger is there. It's going to eat me. It's going to kill me. And that's what we're fighting against unconsciously now. If you haven't got the emotional intelligence yet to understand what's playing out underneath the surface, you are going to be battling against that rather than understanding what's playing out there, so that then you can actually play in a different sphere. And that sphere is being okay with the worst case scenario, which means that, it might actually be okay to walk outside of this cave. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you can start peering outside and start taking action that you might not have otherwise taken otherwise. You're able to adapt to change much easier as well, because the moment that you're able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is the moment that you're spending your time in the unknown. That's where all the solutions to your problems right now are.
Sure.
Because if the solutions to the problems that you have right now are in the things that you already know, you would have already solved them.
Interesting.
Yeah, you would already solve them. That makes sense, right?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just
So it makes perfect sense then that the more time you spend in the unknown, the faster you will come up with the solutions to the challenges that you're facing. Now, it does take for you to be strategic around that, which is why guiding your curiosity is really important, which comes down to having empowering questions that you can ask that allow you to inquire as to how you could potentially solve these, which open you up to those possibilities in the direction you're wanting to go. But nevertheless, you're still in the unknown.
Yep.
The more time you spend there, the faster your growth will occur. And we come full circle here.
I was just going to say that.
The quality of your life will be in direct correlation with the amount of uncertainty you can handle.
Sure.
The quality of your life being how fast are you going to be able to grow and become that next version of yourself again and again and again and again. Because that's the beautiful thing about us as human beings, is that we are born to evolve. We're born to grow. We're born to explore. But the very things that allowed us to explore in the first time around are some of the things that are keeping us held back right now.
Yep. And Cameron, we came full circle in the show. Even you talked about that early on.
like a magical thing. We totally planned that, dude, didn't we? We said before, hey, can you make sure that we say this quote right at the start, and then we come back full circle so that it just blows people away?
That's actually pretty amazing that we did that. That's wild. But I really want to cover one last thing because we're running out of time.
Sure.
You are a National Geographic explorer. That's a huge thing. Do you want to talk about what that actually is and what you're doing for them without giving away, with what you can talk about so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So after my time in Colombia last year, it was a really touching time for me, really meaningful time, because I experienced some really contrasting experiences there. While there's widespread peace in the country, there's also destruction going on of the environment now in a number of areas. I saw trees being cut down in front of my eyes, mining companies moving into areas that you just look at and go, really, guys? These beautiful, pristine areas of jungle. And so it really touched me in a lot of ways. And so in terms of the National Geographic project that I'll be going back there for next year, so we partnered up, and so there's a couple of mini documentaries, a couple of stories that I'll be helping to produce back in that region. to help to promote the sustainability in the region. So that'll happen in around, at this stage, about March 2019.
Very cool.
It was going to be happening about now, like in about a couple of weeks, but with the release of There Is Still Time, we put it towards the the new year. So that's going to be amazing to do, and yeah, it's like I said, a way of again being able to give and being able to utilize the skill sets that I personally have to make a difference in the world. And yeah, we're all very excited and excited to be able to tell those stories that with the outcome of more sustainable development happening in the region, because development is going to happen in the area, because at the end of the day, it's a country that's in development mode. Sure. They're moving out of war-torn times and into a time of peace, and we really need to make sure that we learn from mistakes of other countries and how they treated the environment when going through that phase. I am very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to play a part in that project.
That's really great, man. But we're at the end of the show, so let's close with mentioning where people can get more information about yourself, watch the video and all the other videos you've done in the past. Where can they get more information about all the stuff you've been involved in?
Definitely. So the company site is thrivingcollective.com. If you want to go and watch the videos and learn more about the project, it's thrivingcollective.com/change. And then social media, the handle is at Ask Cameron Brown. So ASK Cameron Brown. That's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that kind of stuff.
Perfect, Cameron. As always, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be on the show. I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and have a good rest of your day, man.
Thanks, man. It's been a great time today. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man. Okay, bye.
Thanks for listening. To join the free community, buy some merch, sponsor the show, or sign up for the newsletter, please visit the website at buildingthefutureshow.com. The music for the show is done by Electric Mantra. You can check them out at electricmantra.com and keep building the future.